Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome back to Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the latest comings and goings, movings and shakings, and indeed all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing technology and gaming. Hope you're all doing well, and first up, straight off the bat, just a couple of things to address, I think. Last week, I didn't release a Ramble, and that was unplanned. I was certainly planning on doing one, but I was still kind of getting into this weekly video release schedule, and I decided that the main channel should be the priority. So I did get a video out on time last week, despite some other stuff that was going on. I've also had a big kind of sort out of the studio as well, which was very much needed to kind of help me get into the right kind of workflow and the right headspace and stuff for these videos and the stuff that I'm planning on doing. So that is that. And I appreciate this is episode 100, and I probably should have done something special for it, but I'm not going to. I'm not that organised, and like I said, I'm still getting into the flow of things, so I just kind of want to get one back out there, get the ball rolling again on these. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you may have also noticed that my video quality is not nearly as good as it has been in previous Rambles, and that's because I have a brand new webcam. You see, my old setup, I used my main YouTube camera, my Sony ZV-E10 it is, and it's not quite an SLR, and it's not a medium format camera. There's a name for them, and I can't remember. It's between the two, but it has interchangeable lenses. It's, I use like a 16mm Sigma lens on it, and it's a really, really nice camera, really decent image quality. And I connected that via something called an Elgato Cam Link. And I was never happy with it. It used to go stuttery. Sometimes it would freeze up. Of course, I had that issue with the audio being delayed as well. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy an expensive, decent webcam. It's an investment for the channel. Obviously, with the sponsor money and everything else, I can justify that kind of thing. And this is the very first time I've used it. And I must say, I'm not all that pleased with the image quality of it, which is strange because I know a lot of people use these face cams and are very happy with them. But we'll see how this goes. Of course, this is a predominantly audio offering. The video is kind of just a bonus. But that's the two kind of major things out of the way that I wanted to talk about this week. Again, because I'm prioritising the Ramble this week, I think this week's main channel video is also going to be late, but perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the Ramble. I've waffled on too much for the intro, so let's get into our first story for this week. And my first story for this week, unfortunately, is not a positive one. Sorry to start on some bad news, but there has been a bit of a problem in the community this week, and it's a bit of a recurring problem as well, which is why I really want to talk about it. Something that I've kind of come across myself as well, to kind of a much lesser extent. But yeah, this is to do with the mt32-Pi project. Now, if you're not familiar with the mt32, it was a piece of MIDI hardware made by Roland back in the 80s that you could plug into a PC, and it would play music using MIDI signals. And it was supported by loads of different games. So kind of the early like Sierra and LucasArts adventure games, stuff like Monkey Island and stuff like that supported it. You could use it to play the music from those games. Had a very kind of distinctive sound to it, the MT32. It's a really cool piece of hardware. Stuff like Doom, Dark Forces, Duke Nukem 3D, that kind of thing. And of course, the original hardware is quite rare now. It's quite expensive, quite hard to get hold of. You can usually pick them up on the Japanese auction sites, but then of course you've got to pay a fortune to ship them and import them and everything else. So the mt32-Pi project came about, which was basically a way of emulating these devices using a Raspberry Pi. So anything that you can plug an MT32 into, you can plug an MT32-Pi into. And indeed, stuff like the Mister and old, original PCs, anything like that, you could use with the MT32-Pi and get the original experience at a fraction of the cost. So really, really cool project. And of course, it has also kind of started to, quite a while ago, started to kind of expand and, spread out into kind of related devices and related fields and stuff as well. So I am very sad to report that it certainly appears that this project is going to be coming to an end, and development on it is going to stop. And it's a direct result of some rather unpleasant goings on in the retro community. So this has been posted over on the GitHub page by, of course, the creator of the project, D.W. Hinham. We won't go into his real name and stuff, of course, because of the nature of the news. But yeah, there is an announcement that has appeared on the official GitHub page, of course, where you can go to download the code and stuff for the project. And it says, please note, it's unlikely that there will be any further releases of mt32-Pi. I have endured a sustained campaign of abuse from members of the Vogons forum, which I'll talk about in a second, been labelled a clout chaser, had threats sent to my personal email address, code being used in other projects without accreditation, my 3D print designs stolen and sold by faceless eBay and Etsy sellers, personal attacks made towards me when people don't get their feature request. The list goes on and on. There is only so much I can take. My mental health has been in decline as a direct result of this behaviour. The joy of working on this project has pretty much gone. There is nothing to be gained from putting time and hard work into it anymore. There is no gratitude, no encouragement, just entitled behaviour and grift. To those who supported this project in the past, especially whilst I was a struggling student who needed all the uplift I could get, thank you sincerely. And that is that. So, yeah, on the surface, it appears that this would be the death of one of the really great projects in this community. He mentions a forum here, Vogons, which is one that I've come across. I'm not really a very active member over there, but I must admit it is one that I've kind of dipped into when I've been researching specific things to do with vintage computer stuff. So it's a vintage PC forum, essentially. And I must admit, I haven't actually seen any of this over there. And I did go looking off the back of this, and I'm assuming it's probably been deleted, but just to kind of see what kind of the nature of it was. But of course, I've come across trolls and things online. It's kind of an unfortunate reality of putting yourself out there. But these open source projects, and people kind of, they start them as passion projects. Yeah, okay, they ask for like some financial support and stuff in the form of Patreon or whatever, but it's not required to actually use these things and enjoy them. Predominantly people do these things just to put them out into the community, and they think that it's a good thing that needs to exist and that will benefit that community that they are a part of. And that's why it's it's kind of all the more awful, really, when people kind of treat people in this way, because you see it all the time with these open source projects. People demanding that you add this, that, and the other to it. Why have you done it in this way? Why have you implemented it in that way? You're an idiot. This is a stupid project, kind of thing. And it just seems to be endless. Like I say, as someone who's been online for, 30 years now, I've certainly seen my fair share of it. And, there's only so much that people can take. And it's absolutely not on when you are creating something great for the community like this. So I'm going to have to take him at his word. It's not, I haven't seen any of this kind of stuff on the Vogons forums. But yeah, people sending threats to his personal email address and stuff. I mean, stealing his 3D print designs and actually selling them and profiting from them without giving anything back. Of course, that's something that we see all the time with these projects. It's a real shame. It is a real shame. And it's sad that such a kind of a small proportion. Can we even count these people as members of this community? I like to think not. But it's sad that, a very kind of small proportion of the community can make people feel this way and make them want to abandon such a fantastic project that evidently they have been so enthusiastic about in the past. So, yeah, I can certainly sympathise, and my heart certainly does go out. Maybe it's something that can be resolved. I don't know. I mean, I've heard some talk about, it's a very mature project. It's not like it really needed any more development anyway. And yeah, that's fair enough, but what's already out there isn't going to disappear. But I do think that kind of misses the point of kind of the wider conversation of online communities and, how people treat each other online. But anyway, that is that. Hopefully things turn around. I'm not sure. I am a huge fan of the mt32-Pi project. I've used them before for various things. I did a DOS gaming video quite a few years ago now on my channel where I was singing its praises and kind of showing it off. And of course, I've got the module for the Mr. Multi-system as well, although I don't really get much use out of it because I've got a million and one other things going on. But yeah, that is that. And I guess we should move on to something a little bit more positive. Some rather nice Atari Jaguar news this week, or Jaguar, of course, if you prefer, that fantastic Atari console from the early 90s. One of my personal favourites. In fact, I have my whole Jaguar collection here in the studio now. I've moved it all over from home and I've got it all on display really nicely. It's kind of part of my bigger plan of some stuff that I want to do with recording and stuff. Not quite ready to unveil that yet, although if you are a supporter of mine, you will have seen a studio tour that kind of shows off what I'm working on. But I'm not here to pimp out my Patreon, of course. I'm here to bring you the latest retro news. And this comes from Songbird Productions. Now, this is a name that you might recognise because, of course, I partnered with them on the Jag Jam last year with Boris Kretzinger, and we did. Of course, it was an Atari Jaguar game jam, and basically the main prize from that was the opportunity to get your game published by Songbird Productions, who are, of course, a really big supporter of the homebrew community and making people's dreams a reality. Getting these games published on real hardware, on the Lynx and the Jaguar, kind of predominantly. Physical cartridges, physical boxes, physical manuals, and what they're doing is an absolutely fantastic thing. So I was very pleased to get on board with them. And they have announced this week that they are partnering with Atari to publish some more stuff. And I think the big kind of headline news here is that they're doing Atari Karts, which of course was Atari's, dare I say, knockoff of Mario Kart. Of course, everyone was churning out kart racers at the time. It's a very interesting game. Of course, it was released as part of the 20th anniversary collection. If you want to go and check it out, that's probably the easiest way to do it. I did actually own a physical copy until just before Christmas, when I decided to sell some stuff. And unfortunately, Atari Karts was one of the things that I sold. Needs must and all that, but yeah, I guess I can pick up a brand new copy now because they are doing a limited production run of this, and it's an official thing in partnership with Atari. And there are 2 other games as well, 2 brand new games, from the homebrew community. So there's Spidex and Wormhole 2000, and we will take a look at these in a second. But this is over on the site whose name we dare not mention, Mr. Musk's little hangout, but over on Twitter or X, whatever it's called this week. So they've announced orders open Thursday morning Central Time. The first run of Atari Karts is 250 units, but we're staging that as half in February and half in April to allow time for production. We can increase if the demand is there. Spidex and Wormhole are only 50 units each for the first run. Each game includes the box, the cartridge, and a full-colour manual. So we've got some prices here. Atari Karts is $89.95, and Spidex and Wormhole are $79.95, respectively. And I thought we'd go and check out the product pages for these as well. So this is the kind of main Songbird Productions website. As you can see, they've got various ranges on here. The Jaguar, the Lynx, the Evercade, and the Nuon, and a miscellaneous category. What's in the miscellaneous category? Here I am getting sidetracked again. Oh, some nice pouches and handheld consoles and some merch, pin badges and T-shirts and things. Very good. Anyway, like I say, really important kind of part of the community, a really big supporter of the community as well. So always happy to give them a shout out. So if we take a look at the first game in the list, of course, this is Atari Karts. And like I said, it's a kart racing game. It's very Atari. It's kind of got this... I don't know, you know how Mario Kart and stuff like Wacky Wheels on the PC as well is kind of where my brain kind of immediately goes when I think about kart racers. Atari Karts is kind of a lot darker, and like the music and stuff, it's kind of got this weird kind of dystopian feel to it, I think. Certainly in the early races and stuff. Obviously, there are some other ones that are a bit different, and of course, it's very Jaguar-esque as well, which is something that's probably quite hard to describe to someone who's never played a Jaguar game. The games have a very kind of distinctive look and feel to them. It's well worth playing. It's quite an interesting thing to check out if it's not something you've experienced. Of course, gameplay-wise, it is just your standard kart racer. You've got your various different characters. I'm just looking at the screenshot here. I had forgotten about this weird skeleton dude. I have no idea what that's about. You've got Regius, Scully, Pulpito, Miztress, Bentley Bear, of course, who should be familiar if you're an Atari fan, Volky, Patamigan, and Haratari are the characters. Oh yeah, there's a Pumpkinhead dude as well. It's so long since I played this game. But anyway, this is a proper full reissue of the original 1995 release. An initial run of 250 units, which are available to pre-order now from Songbird. Of course, this will be linked down below along with everything else. Includes box, cartridge, and 16-page full-colour manual. Of course, it has single-player and split-screen multiplayer. And that's Atari Karts. But of course, there are 2 new games as part of this announcement as well. So the next one is Spidex, which is an arcade-style shooter for 1 or 2 players, again with the box and the full-colour manual and everything else. Now, this isn't a game that I'd come across before, but it certainly looks interesting. You've got like this spider web on here. Presumably you are traversing your way around the web, shooting these enemies and stuff. Shooting or maybe spidering them, like wrapping them up in silk or whatever. But yeah, all new box art for 2025. Another frantic shooter for your Jaguar. In Spidex, you must eliminate the insect horde while dodging barriers, explosions, and all those pesky bugs. Use twin controllers for maximum control. Oh yeah, of course, like a twin stick shooter, twin D-pads. That's nice. Although you'd need very big hands to hold two Jaguar controllers, wouldn't you? Anyway, maybe that says more about me than anything else. Otherwise, use the keypad to shoot while you scramble around the screen. 12 levels and 11 varieties of insects to overwhelm you. Very cool, that. Looks like a cool game. Developed by Phobos, as is the second game, Wormhole 2000. So it's an arcade-style space shooter, 1 or 2 players again, and there's a couple of screenshots here. It's kind of similar to like Galaxian or something like that, I guess, but with the enemies kind of moving in these circular waves. Again, it's not one that I've played, so I'm just going based on the screenshots over on Songbird. But yeah, navigate your ship in the cosmos, either alone or with the help of a friend in this space shooter for the Jaguar. You will travel to 12 different parts of the galaxy and discover alien spaceships and other strange creatures. Repel them all if you want to become champion of the wormhole. And who doesn't want that? For 1 or 2 players, includes a box, cartridge, and manual. So those 2 new games developed by Phobos are limited runs of 50 each. Physical cartridge manuals and boxes, as I've said before, $79.95. And of course, we also have the triumphant return of Atari carts for $89.95. And I will say the original run of this it's now a very, very rare and expensive game. You know, you're talking in the hundreds to be able to get your hands on a copy of this. So to get a brand new one for $89.95, of course it's all Songbird branded and stuff. It is, you know, it is a reissue. It's not trying to pass itself off as the original. But yeah, very cool thing to see, because I do think it is a very cool game and a very interesting part of Jaguar history. So links down in the description as always. Go check those out and get your pre-orders in if you're a Jag fan. This next story was submitted by a user called Gravitone, again over on my Discord, so thank you ever so much to you. And that previous story was also submitted by him, so yeah, sorry for not giving you a shout out there. It completely slipped my mind, but it's out there now. So this is quite a simple one. There's not really much to this, but just wanted to kind of bring it to people's attention. This was certainly new to me. And this is something that was posted over on Twitter, again, by the Commodore Computer Museum. And the infuriating thing about this, and you know, this isn't me passing judgment on whoever is running this Commodore Computer Museum account, but the infuriating thing about this is that there's no link to any kind of information or anything like that. So all of the replies on this are people asking if there's going to be a physical cartridge release and what the source is and stuff like that. Cite your sources. I always do down in the description and in the show notes. And I always point people there and say, if you want more information, go check it out. And this is certainly not going to be any different because I've done my research on this. But anyway, just a bit of a rant as to the nature of the modern internet. But as we can see from this, this is Prince of Persia. I will get to the point, running on the VIC-20. Now, the VIC-20 isn't a machine that I really know much about. It was kind of a very limited, well, I guess not for its day, but, you know, it's kind of gone down in history as quite a basic 8-bit machine, I think it's fair to say. But perhaps most importantly, the predecessor to the Commodore 64, which, of course, was a much more capable machine, much better known. And the VIC-20 kind of laid the groundwork for that. It was kind of the, you know, the stepping stone from the PET to the Commodore 64. And lots of great games on the VIC-20 as well. Lots of developers kind of really making the most out of very limited hardware. And this is no exception. So what we can see in this video is basically someone playing through the first level of Prince of Persia. And this port is based on the ZX Spectrum version, apparently, and I will, of course, cite my source in a second when this is over. Oh, it is over. Perfect timing. So I did some Googling off the back of this to try and find out where it had come from, and I found this forum post from April of last year from a user called LeChuck over on sleepingelephant.com is the domain. VIC-20 Denial seems to be the name of the forum. Of course, it's a Commodore VIC-20 forum. LeChuck being the famous ghost pirate from the Monkey Island series, but not that that's really relevant, but cool username. And it says here, just uploaded my personal version of Prince of Persia for the VIC-20. And indeed, there is a download link. So if you have a VIC-20 and you have something like a, I don't know, is there a flash? I think there is a flash cart for the VIC-20, isn't there? Is it called like the penultimate cartridge, something like that? I think that's one I've come across. Or like a tape emulator or something like that, like the Tapduino. You can download this and you can load it up on your VIC-20, or indeed you can play it in your favourite emulator if you like, or I suppose even on Mister. So many different options, isn't it great? What a time to be alive. Yeah, and basically the description here, I shall read this out to you. Apologies, A bit of a cough coming on. Prince of Persia was one of my favourite games when I got my first PC. I have to express my deepest admiration by his creator, Jordan Mechner. And, of course, Jordan Mechner, I would just say, I'll go off on a tangent like I always do. A really great member of the community is Jordan. He's written books about his work on the game, or at least co-written them, been involved in the writing of them. Done lots of really great interviews about the technical side of it and how he kind of created Prince of Persia. Really, really interesting story, this game. And well known for its rotoscoped character animations and stuff, where he filmed his brother with a camcorder and then kind of traced over all these kind of individual frames of him kind of running and jumping and stuff to make the graphics in the game. Really, really creative stuff. Anyway, that's me going off on a tangent. When I saw a version of the game for the Spectrum, developed by someone named Nicodim, I thought that something similar to some extent could be done for the VIC-20. Given the difference in available RAM, and the Spectrum version, as the original game developed for the Apple II, required 128K, I had to do many simplifications. This is clearly noticeable in the movements, not as smooth as the original, and especially in the sword fighting. When I started working on this, I already had very limited available memory, so you'll see this is very simplified. Besides this, you'll find many other differences with the original game and even with the Spectrum version, but I hope you find it interesting to see Kid running and jumping through the VIC-20 screens. This VIC-20 version includes 9 levels. These try to be similar to the 9 first levels of the original version, plus the final scene with the princess. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. And that's rather nice, isn't it? I love these kind of homebrew attempts to convert these classic games to platforms that they were never intended to run on, that they never had official releases for. And it certainly wouldn't look out of place, as kind of a period release on that machine. I think by the time Prince of Persia came around, I think people had very much moved on from the VIC-20, but I love stuff like this. This is fantastic, isn't it? So my hat is off to you, LeChuck. Great effort, and I appreciate that this was posted back in April of last year, but it was certainly new to me, and it is doing the rounds on Twitter at the minute, and I thought it was only fair to kind of track down the original source and point people in the direction of the download link so they can go and check it out themselves. So I've done my bit. That's Prince of Persia on the VIC-20, and enjoy. I just take a sip of my jasmine tea from my This Week in Retro mug. Now, this is a limited edition mug. If you remember last year, I covered for Neil when he was on paternity leave. Of course, he's co-host of the This Week in Retro podcast. Great friends of mine, these people, lovely bunch of people. If you haven't checked out their podcast, please do. And look, it's the lineup. So we've got Duncan there, the producer, and there's me in amongst them all with, of course, Dave and Neil as well. Neil's avatar is very hench, isn't it? And is he like that in real life? I mean, obviously I know him in real life, but come on, Neil. I mean, he's very Bruce Willis looking, isn't he? I think it's probably from lugging all of those CRTs up and down those 4 flights of stairs in his mill down in Gloucestershire. But anyway, yeah, this is a limited edition mug that they very kindly made for me when I was co-hosting that last year. This camera doesn't half make my face look pink, doesn't it? I set the white balance manually as well. Yeah, really nice. This is probably going to be returned. Anyway, let's get into our next story this week. And I've actually, in all that waffling, completely forgotten what it is. What is it? Oh, yeah, it's that one. So this was submitted by More Fun Making It, Lee, of course, friend of the channel and indeed a personal friend of mine. Lovely chap, Lee is. And I had seen this one doing the rounds. This was actually going to be part of last week's Ramble, and I just need to talk about this because it is quite an amusing story. This is a supermarket in Costa Rica called Super Mario. And Nintendo have actually tried to take them to court over the name, as you might expect, and lost. The supermarket actually won the court case against Nintendo, so they can continue trading as Super Mario. So this story is over on Eurogamer.net, and the headline is Nintendo loses trademark fight against Super Mario Supermarket. And it says here, a Costa Rican supermarket has claimed victory against Nintendo in a trademark battle over its name, Super Mario. The Super Mario shop in San Ramon is allegedly named as such because it is a supermarket run by a local man named Don Jose Mario Alfaro Gonzalez, or Mario for short. I think I did quite a good job on the pronunciation there. But despite trading under the Super Mario name for decades, Nintendo recently took an interest when Mario's son attempted to renew the shop's registered trademark. So they actually had a registered trademark on this Super Mario name as well. And in a post on the shop's Facebook page, which Carlos Charlito Alfaro maintains alongside working in his dad Mario's shop, Alfaro says he first registered Super Mario Shop as a brand shortly after graduating from university in 2013. Last year, it was time to renew the registration, Alfaro stated, which prompted Nintendo to get involved. Thank you enormously to my legal advisor and accountant, Jose Edgardo Jimenez Blanco, who took care of the registration and the subsequent fight for the right to a trademark. I think the Beastie Boys did a song about that, didn't they? Fight for your right to trademarks. For a moment, we thought about throwing in the towel. How are we going to win the fight against such a commercial monster? More with the amount of legal documents submitted by them to ensure the victory. Well, by that, Edgardo and I stood firm, and a few days ago, we received the good news, he continued. Super Mario is here to stay. So while Nintendo has trademarked the use of Super Mario worldwide under numerous categories, struggling to get my words out on this one, including video games, clothing and toys, it appears the company did not specifically state anything about the names of supermarkets. So I'm sure they're probably scrabbling to get that one covered as well. But in the meantime, if you want to open a supermarket called Super Mario, perhaps now's your last chance. This, Alfaro says, was the key factor in the decision by Costa Rica's trademark authority, the National Register, to side with the supermarket. Is it Costa Rica or Costa Rica? I'm too deep now. So there are some photos here of the owners of the supermarkets. We've got a picture of Charlito holding up his sign, which states support local businesses. And then we've got a picture of another chap here who I assume is the lawyer, or maybe his dad. It might be his dad, the owner. Anyway, so there we go. Apart from the name, the shop's logo is otherwise devoid of reference to Nintendo. It's a simple yellow and dark blue design with the wording Super Mario, su lugar de confianza, which translates to Super Mario, your trusted place. And they've also posted a video to celebrate their victory. And yeah, well, look at that. Look, the man you see here is Don Mario. He's my dad, and he has 52 years of being here, and he is Super Mario, Alfaro says. Now we're trending. Everyone is talking about us for the resolution by the National Register that gave the decision in our favour for the brand Super Mario, which, by the way, here you can ask the cashiers for a sticker. Really cool, isn't it? Nice little local business. I'm sure they probably knew what they were doing when they registered the name, and this is all a little bit cheeky, but you know what? It's cool. So it's a supermarket. It's run by a guy called Mario. Why not call it Super Mario? It's not, Nintendo aren't really losing out on anything, are they? It's not like they're trying to trade on their good name or anything. But I thought it was quite an amusing little story. And of course, Nintendo love suing people over perceived misuses of their IP. They do it all the time. And it's unusual to see a little guy like this actually win against them. So definitely very noteworthy. Thank you ever so much to Lee from More Fun Making It for submitting it. So something for you that's actually a couple of weeks old now, and I really wanted to try to cover it last week just to get the word out there, but unfortunately, as you know, that one didn't end up happening. So I still want to talk about this, and it's not really positive news, I'm afraid, but I did kind of want to just at least help to kind of get the word out there and make people aware of this. I guess for any of you out there who are not aware of this, this is a channel called Bringus Studios, and I believe the chap's name is John Bringus, who runs it. And he's, I think he came up on my radar about 6 months ago because he did a series on a really cool NVIDIA branded PC that he'd discovered that was like stupidly, ridiculously upgraded with, like neon lights and all that really cool early 2000s stuff. And I've kind of watched some of his stuff since then off the back of that. And he's just a really nice guy. So unfortunate that this has happened to him. He has a storage unit where he keeps all of the stuff for his channel, all of the kind of the machines and things that he's featured on his channel, and that storage unit has been broken into. So he kind of postulates here, he shows kind of some of the damage that they caused breaking into this, and basically it looks like this place isn't very well designed at all, and they've kind of managed to sneak in over the top of the door and climb down his racking and then like bust the door open from the inside and then lock it all up again afterwards and make it look like nothing happened. But he has unfortunately had some very rare and interesting things taken just by the very nature of what he does. So that rare NVIDIA PC, which I mentioned, has been stolen, unfortunately, as has a PS5, a brand new PS5 in the box. It was a very low serial number, I think, based on what he said, but, all right, perhaps not quite so historically important. There's an Xbox Alpha development machine, which he had in there, which they actually left, even though they are ridiculously valuable and kind of historically important, which I guess probably goes to show that perhaps the people that took this stuff were just opportunists rather than some kind of targeted thing. They took his high school diploma, which he had in a box in the storage unit. So they took that. And they, there's a load of stuff with like his home address on and things like that, which of course is a concern with these things because, you think these people had kind of realised that this guy's got a load of expensive and rare stuff and now they have his home address. So, kind of a bit of an unpleasant thing to have to deal with. But he has posted a video just detailing all of the stuff that's gone missing, what it looks like, information on his local area and stuff, in case you do see any of this coming up for sale. Like I say, it has been a couple of weeks ago. This was uploaded 13 days ago now and has over 500,000 views. But worth reporting on, I think, and I hope he at least gets some kind of closure on this, whether they track the stuff down or track the perpetrators down, would be nice to see, I guess. So, yeah, unfortunate business. They left his Barbie PC, at least. Yeah, I suppose you shouldn't joke about these situations. And that, dear viewer/listener, brings me around to my regular Video of the Week feature, of course, wherein I talk about a video that I've seen on YouTube in the past week that has entertained or inspired or educated or whatever else. Quite often they are on topic. More often than not, they're not. But this week's is very much on topic in this this sphere of retro and vintage hardware and software that we do. So, without further ado, let's go check this out. This is Matt KC Bytes. Now, this is Matt KC's second channel. I am a huge fan of Matt KC. I'm also a patron of his, perhaps known for his series on Lego Island, the Lego Island games, where he kind of reverse engineers those. He also did quite a big video a while back where he ported a load of stuff to Windows 95 by basically like backporting a newer version of .NET to Windows 95, which was all really incredibly clever stuff. And yeah, he's also working on a project to create like a third-party Wii U controller as well. So really clever chap, always has all these fantastical projects on the go. And this isn't actually a project of his as such. He's just kind of getting the word out there and covering something that's already out there in the community. And this video, the title of this video is you can now run the biggest chat system of the 2000s at home. And the topic of this video is AOL Instant Messenger. Now, we first went online with AOL back in 1995, so it's something I have very fond memories of. And then, of course, they spun Messenger off as a separate thing, which, of course, I had access to because I had an AOL account, from day one. And I used it a lot back in the day, back in kind of the late 90s, to chat to my friends alongside MSN Messenger and ICQ and all the others. So something I have very fond memories of. And basically what's happened is that someone has reverse engineered the protocol behind this and kind of the server infrastructure behind this. So this is all about a project over here called Retro AIM Server, and there is a GitHub for that as well, which of course I will I will also link to. And what you can essentially do is set up your own AOL Instant Messenger server, and it supports basically all of the different versions of the AIM clients are out there. So if you have very, very fond memories of the original release of AOL Instant Messenger, for example, you can run that and you can chat to other people on this server as if it was 1997 again. It's just a really cool project, and it supports basically all of the features of AOL Instant Messenger. So you've got your away messages, your buddy icons, your buddy list, your chat rooms, public and private chats. You can have user profiles on there. You can block people. Yeah, it also supports ICQ, I think, at some point, based on the video. AOL, of course, acquired ICQ and kind of integrated the two, and so it just kind of supports... it supports one of the ICQ clients, which I think was kind of vaguely based on AOL Instant Messaging. It's all a tangled web, isn't it? But yeah, the important thing is that you can get it up and running on Linux, macOS, or Windows. There are instructions here, but it is open source, and you can compile it yourself, I believe. So, it may well be available. Yes, it's under an MIT license. So it may well be, of course, buildable on pretty much any platform you can think of if you want to run an AIM server on your VIC-20, for example. But yeah, just a really cool little project, this. And, AOL Instant Messenger, what a period in internet history back in the late 90s. Young teenagers like me chatting to their friends and setting their away messages to... I was going to say emo song lyrics. Was emo a thing I suppose it was a thing in the late 90s, wasn't it? Kind of came into its own in the early 2000s, though. Fond memories of those days. So, hey, if you're out there and you're interested in getting one of these up and running, of course, there are a couple of the kind of semi-official servers as well, which Matt does talk about in the video and does link to in the in the description under that as well, so definitely worth going and checking out. But yeah, you can join one of those, you can host your own, or you can just go and watch the video and reminisce about the good old days of AOL Instant Messenger. It's only just over 9 minutes long, and it's quite an interesting watch about that period in internet history. So thank you ever so much to Matt KC. Like I say, that wasn't a submission. I'm already an avid viewer of his and fan of his, and just another one of his very cool little projects. And that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. Just one more story, just to acknowledge the passing, sadly, of another industry great this week. It seems to be becoming more and more common, of course, I guess, with the games industry and the tech industry being the mature thing that it is, because these people are all kind of coming to certain ages and leaving us. But the least we can do is acknowledge their contributions to this whole thing that we know and love so much, of course. So this is the passing, as reported over on Time Extension and submitted to me by Mnemo, of Stéphane Picq. And he was a video game music composer known for his work on Dune, Lost Eden, and Mega Race. And I do remember Mega Race very well. It's a game I haven't checked out for a very long time. So perhaps I need to play it in his memory over this weekend. Sadly, at the age of 59, which is not much of an age, is it? But French composer and multi-instrumentalist Stéphane Picq has passed away aged 59. We are sad to report he had been suffering from a long illness. The news was broken on Facebook by the Vahine and spotted by VG Densetsu. It is with great sadness that we learned of Stéphane's departure, reads the post. A regular, a friend, a family member, he was one of those people who leave a mark by their authenticity, their frankness, and all those shared moments that will remain etched in our hearts. It hurts my heart to know that we won't see him here anymore. It won't be the same without him. And there's a bit of a kind of an obituary here on timeextension.com. Picq's musical career began in 1987 when he worked with French studios ERE Informatic and Exos and Cryo Interactive on several notable games. Most famously, Dune, of course, Cryo's interactive adaptation of David Lynch's classic 1984 movie based on Frank Herbert's seminal sci-fi novel. Other games include Purple Saturn Day, Mega Race, KGB, Lost Eden, Dragon Lore, X-Dace, Commander Blood, and Atlantis, The Lost Tales. And in 2023, he actually released the soundtrack to Dune as Dune Spice Opera, after waiting 30 years to regain the rights. In 1998, he announced that he was retiring and moved to Madagascar, where he would eventually establish his own recording studio. And speaking in 2020, Picq explained why he turned his back on video games. We were free, well paid, we were able to work miracles with machines 10,000 times less powerful than a smartphone today. We were enthusiastic and motivated until the suits and ties that sang the praises of maximum profit at all cost arrived in our daily lives and put almost everyone in the position of a good worker with very attractive salaries, but no more profit on sales and, above all, much less creative freedom. And isn't that the way that it goes in the gaming industry? So yeah, Time Extension just goes on to say that their thoughts are with Picq's family and friends at this difficult time, and of course, I'd just like to echo that. Another great industry titan sadly lost, and of course, only right to acknowledge his passing. So that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. Thank you ever so much for joining me. As mentioned a couple of times throughout, you can check out all these stories down in the description if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on one of the podcast platforms and the stuff gets passed along somehow by the magic of RSS. I know it certainly does on Spotify. I'm not sure about the other platforms, but yeah, you can find all of those links if you want to read a bit more about that down below, and of course download some of the stuff that I have talked about. But that's all I have for you. I don't have a main channel release to talk about. Usually I would release them on a Friday morning, but this week's, and I did say I'd kind of acknowledge this, this week's is quite a complex one. If you've been watching my social media, you will probably be aware of the actual topic of said video, but I need to very quickly edit this Ramble together and get back to editing that. And there are a couple of other bits I need to record as well, because it's quite an ambitious project, and perhaps committing to getting it all done within a week was a little bit much, but I always said that the deadlines might slip if videos needed a little bit of work, and there's no shame in that. So hopefully that will be along at some point over this weekend, depending on what else is going on. But I hope you've enjoyed this week's Ramble, and I hopefully will be back with you at the same time and same place next week on YouTube and Spotify, Apple Google. Google's not a thing anymore, is it? All the other podcasting platforms. And that's that. So, bye.